On this episode, we review the first night of the Candlelight Processional, dining package at Coral Reef, Space 220 Lounge, holiday merch, and a whole lot more. Today is December 3rd, 2021, and this is episode 414 of the Main Street Magic Podcast.
Jeremy and Rhonda are more than a little fond of Disney World, so they made this podcast to share it all with you. Reports and resorts, top 10 lists of all sorts, Main Street Magic's bringing it home for you.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Main Street Magic. I am your host, Jeremy Stein, and I'm joined by my lovely wife, Rhonda.
Hey, guys.
Make sure you check us out on the web at mainstmagic.com, as well as follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at mainstmagic. If you've not done so already, head out to Facebook and search for the Main Street Magic community and ask to join. And then if you hit that subscribe button, you will get brand new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. But if you want even more content, including in-park, resort, at-home live streams, discounts on Main Street Magic merchandise, and there's a whole lot more, you can check out our Patreon group at wonderlandcrew.com. And if you're getting ready to plan that next Disney, Universal vacation, maybe you're looking to go on a cruise or pretty much travel anywhere else in the world, head to msmears.com to learn more about our wonderful travel partner, Melissa Pilgrim, with years of experience, and fill out a form for a free quote. All right, today's going to be one of those episodes where our focus is the Candlelight Processional and the dining package in Coral Reef, but it's also going to be a play-by-play of our Friday evening arriving at Epcot. So there's going to be some other stories and such that will be interwoven, I believe is a word that I can use in this scenario, throughout us talking about the Processional, Coral Reef, all these other things. All right.
Okay.
Let's just start and then we'll go to our encounter with it. Rhonda, just kind of in your own words, what is the Candlelight Processional? It was gone in 2020. They brought it back this year. How would you explain the Candlelight Processional to someone who goes, never heard of it? What's that?
Well, there is a celebrity narrator every night between now and December.
Yeah.
And there is a big, giant, gorgeous choir that sings, and the celebrity will read the retelling of the story of Jesus's birth. And it's really cool.
Yeah, and they'll do usually, I want to say, it's like 3 nights usually that each narrator will be around.
Okay.
And then there are shows every night from basically last Friday, which was November 26th, all the way through December 30th. You have a lot of different narrators, Cheetah Rivera, Jody Benson, you've got Andy Garcia, some of the other ones, Stephen Curtis Chapman, Blair Underwood, Pat Sajak, amongst some others. I think by the time that they were ready to move forward this year, some of the fan favorites, the Neil Patrick Harris, Gary Sinise, Whoopi Goldberg, and John Stamos has done it in the past, I believe. Those they weren't available this year.
Correct.
Otherwise, I know every last one of them would have been here.
Yeah.
And your show times every single night are 5:15, 7, and 8:30. All right, Rhonda, they are retelling with a choir. Voices of Liberty.
I should say, yes. Voices of Liberty are in the main center.
It's a tree.
I just started to say, yeah. And then they look like angels. They're so pretty.
Yeah. Two of the biggest questions actually that we've had in the past is, one, do you need to be religious? And two, is this good for children? How would you answer both of those questions?
No, and absolutely.
Okay.
No,
we
you
didn't
don't
get them
have
backwards, right?
No, you
Make
don't.
Sure. Okay.
No, you don't.
Absolutely, you got to be religious, and no, this is not for kids.
Yeah.
So much cursing.
No, you do not have to be religious, in my opinion. But it is, if you are, I think it is more meaningful.
Sure.
It is really cool. And then children, absolutely. Unfortunately, they could get a little bored. I could see that.
Yeah,
like young children.
I was thinking that. And then really when we were sitting there on our night, the story portions, which is the narrator retelling the story, are very short. You know, it's not like they go on a 5-minute
True.
Storytelling. It's I could be way off. I feel like it's like 2 minutes, maybe. And then boom, they're into choir and they're into joyful song and the trumpeteers on the side. All right,
cool.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. So we are going to say more about that later. Something else we want to quickly dive into is that dining packages are available for this.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, this included basically every table service restaurant in Epcot, and it included many of the surrounding restaurants in the Epcot Resort area, things like Ale and Compass.
Right.
Trattoria El Forno was always included, things like that. They are not this year. Your choices are between Beer Garden, Coral Reef, Garden Grill, and Rose and Crown. Now, these are, you can do breakfast, lunches, and dinners. Breakfast like Garden Grill and such offers. You can do lunch, you can do dinner. These can be a bit pricey. You know, we're talking for our Coral Reef was $74 per adult. Here's what you're paying for, okay? You can choose from one of these 4 restaurants. Each package includes, for each individual person you're paying for, an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert, or one full buffet, as you know, a beer garden, a garden grill style, family style, along with a non-alcoholic beverage. Here's the big reason you do this. It's not for the food.
Right.
It's not for, you're not getting a deal. Okay.
No.
You are getting one guaranteed seat per person to the Candlelight Processional held on that day during one of those 3 time slots.
Right.
Depending on when your reservation is, will kind of determine on your time slot.
Yes.
Breakfast is usually going to be the 5:15 show.
Yes.
A early, dinner or a late lunch is going to be the 7, and then again a later dinner is going to be 8:30.
Right.
You are paying to guarantee that seat.
Yep.
Because this will fill up every night.
Yes.
And it's basically based on what is the percentage of it filling up with people that have a guaranteed seat on dining package and people that are in standby.
Right.
Who may have to be there really early.
Yeah.
You know, we were there on opening night.
And you're not guaranteed in standby at all. In fact, if they sell enough packages,
nobody could technically get in from standby.
Correct.
Technically. In the past, the Neil Patrick Harris, the Gary Sinise, the Whoopi Goldberg, this was a must for a dining package.
We've seen standby not get in.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's full.
Yeah, and let's just say you go for standby, and if you're going to standby, I would try the 5:15 show. And I would get there at least an hour early, maybe an hour and a half. And we did see, I felt like a good amount of people seemed like they were being let in for that 5:15 show as we walked by.
Yeah.
We had the 7 p.m. show, but just to break it down real quick, Coral Reef, we ended up booking. We actually got really lucky because we didn't get it the day that they went. We didn't actually know we were going to do the Candlelight Processional this year, to be honest.
Right.
And then I looked and I was like, you know what? It's opening night. We're there. We can break away from the campground and we could go.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get a dining package. And earlier in the week, some opened, and I was able to secure a 4 p.m. time slot at Coral Reef. Coral Reef is $74 a person. If you order the most expensive appetizer, the most expensive entree, and the most expensive dessert, it comes out to $59. This means you're paying an extra $25 for a guaranteed seat.
Right.
Now, personally, and I've said this in the past, I wish they would just sell guaranteed seats and get rid of this dining package stuff, maybe. Or they do something where they're like, I'd easily pay $25 for a guaranteed seat per person.
Now, was that rumor? I know we're not rumor podcast people.
No.
But was that rumor, or was that said? There were signs that was saying $25 for guaranteed seating.
I have not confirmed such a thing.
Okay.
But I would pay it in a heartbeat, especially because then, you know what? Our whole family could go.
Yeah.
We can't pay. I'm not paying $300 for the 4 of us to have dinner and go to the show. But we felt this was important, of course, for us to do because we wanted to be guaranteed so that we could talk about it and all of that.
Oh, absolutely. And we wanted a seat, a good seat.
Yes.
And we had a really good seat.
An amazing seat.
So, I mean, yeah, sure, we could have tried doing standby or something, but we just really wanted to bring this to y'all, so we wanted a very good seat.
Yeah. So, all right, boring stuff out of the way, right? Because that's all just boring. It's in my notes. It's listed from the website. let's get into how our evening would progress. We finished up, and we're going to do a full lunch review on Steakhouse 71.
Yes.
And the next couple of episodes, we got so much great info and content out of this trip. It was awesome. So it'll come in like 2 weeks, I think. So hopefully you remember about it. I've got pictures and notes. But anyway, we finished up Steakhouse 71 with your parents around 2 p.m., right? And we were full.
Yes, we were.
We had a very wonderful lunch we'll talk about in the future. It was good, full. We hopped over to Grand Flow with your parents because we wanted to see the gingerbread house, and your mom always loves to get some gingerbread items from there. And we're like, all right, we gotta get out. We're supposed to have a 4 p.m. Dinner, which includes an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert for each of us. At 4 p.m., we had just finished eating. We had taken the last bite of cake around 2 p.m. And my anxiety kicked in, and my brain and body was like, you can't put another bite of food in your mouth around 4 p.m. It's not going to happen. So I'm starting to freak out a little bit as we make our way over. And we got there probably, I want to say, about 3:30, 3:15, 3:30.
Yeah.
Talk about what transpired next. I guess let's run through it, because I'm honestly having anxiety thinking about sitting down at a restaurant, spending this amount of money, and not eating.
Yeah.
Basically.
So we were like, all right, what could we do? Could we sit down, take one bite of each thing, and then just get it to go? We were thinking, could we get it to go? We were thinking, could we cancel? But then we want the guaranteed Candlelight set processional seating. So we go over to Coral Reef, and we meet a very lovely cast member, Haley. And I was like, hi, Haley. I was like, so we have a problem that we're hoping you can help us with. So we explained that we just did this, and she's like, well, here's what's really cool. She's like, you can push a reservation to most any time, but here's the hard part, though. It has to be before 7, because that was our Candlelight processional seating. So it's not like we could get the Candlelight processional food ticket thing and then go see it and then go to dinner.
Yeah, go eat at 9.
Right.
Which I would have done.
Which we could have done.
Yeah. So glad we didn't. This, I will say, this was one of my favorite nights.
It was amazing
in the history of the world.
Okay.
This night was amazing.
But it was fun. So anyway, so we start talking to Haley, and we're like, well, I don't think we're still going to be hungry. So we're like, is there to go? Like, we could do that, because we had stuff at the camper. We could, put it in the cooler. We could, keep it. And then we were going to the hotel the very next day. And
I was sure we had a microwave there.
Well, and even Jeremy was like, we don't really have any plans for food the next day anyway. So I was like, all right, cool. So Haley called on her little intercom thing and talked to some people. And I guess to get to the point, yes, she was like, you can. So she was like, come back about 6:30 and we'll get your order to go, and you can take your food, and you can take, go watch the processional, and that's that. So I was like, okay.
Well, and that was even the thing. At first, she was like, because she had called back to a manager, and she was just so nice. And I said to her, I was like, has anyone ever asked this question before? And she's like, no,
Nope.
they have not. And I'm like, well, then maybe we're helping too. I don't know. But I found it very interesting, and this sounded like this was obviously not only for a Candlelight processional package, but any dining reservation, that if you show, and again, we're not saying to abuse a system,
right?
But things change, plans change. It is nice to know that, the same way that you can walk up and cancel a reservation in person and not be charged that $10 per person,
right?
As opposed to if you try and do it online, within that 24-hour period, they will basically guarantee you a time later as your plans change.
Well,
and that made me feel really good.
As we were sitting there waiting for Haley to let us know what was going on, a lady walked up and said, I have a 6:00 reservation. She was like, my kids are done. They need to go back to the hotel for resting. So, and that's when Haley again said, you can push it to any time. And she said, just come back. Well, unfortunately, the woman was like, I don't know if we're coming back to the park. So Haley then had to go, well, go ahead and go inside and talk with somebody. So if she was canceling, which I believe she was, then hopefully she wouldn't get charged the $10. So
yeah, and she was going to have to do that there in person at that time. If she pushed her reservation till 8 and just didn't show, she was going to be charged.
So it was just, again, good to hear, because it not that, we're not special or anything, but that's it was just nice to hear that, yes, other people is for too.
Yeah.
And just don't abuse that.
Little side story. What did you want to name Lacey?
Oh, I did want to name her Haley.
And why did we not name her that?
Because you say Haley.
Because I never pronounced it
You
right.
never said Haley.
But now I've learned. You said it's like saying, hey, Lee.
Yes.
Like if you saw someone named Lee and you wanted to say, hey, you say, hey, Lee. And it's
well,
Haley.
and like her name is spelled Hailey, like hail.
Right.
Like when it's hailing outside. And that's how you would always say it, Haley.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Like,
no.
we're not naming our daughter that.
Haley.
I would have learned it at some point.
Wow.
Maybe she'd have been like
you
7.
every time you said it, I just would be driven crazy. So I was like, nope.
She was wonderful. She said, when you're ready, we'll send a server out and they will take your order and you can get it to go. And then we're like, well, because we were thinking at first like, oh, like now? Okay. And I'm like, well, we don't really want to carry food around for 4 hours. Would you be able to keep it here? And that's when she was like, no. Come back before 7, basically, and you're good to go. And I'm like, all right, 6:30, we get the food. We have it for a little bit. That's not bad. It'll certainly still keep and all. So that was wonderful. All of a sudden, I had this huge weight lifted off my shoulders because I did not want to cancel, but I did not want to eat food, nor did I want to just say, all right, here's a bunch of money. This food's just going to go in the garbage because we have to carry it around for 4 hours. So it was so from there we had to stop by Rose and Crown as always. We were seeing if our friend Charlotte was working. She was not, but Holly was,
yep.
Who we absolutely adore. And then as I went back later and I met very wonderful Elise. She was outstanding. Actually, I was wearing my Be Nice to Cast Members hat.
Mm-hmm.
And I went the first time and she had seen me and all, but I went back the second time. She came over and was like, I meant to say last time, I love your hat. And I'm like, oh, thank you. And she was just wonderful. And we saw her again later. Then we went shopping.
Yeah.
And
we did.
I gotta say, looking back, and maybe I'd have to go through some of our stuff, I don't remember seeing or purchasing a ton of International Festival of the Holidays stuff in the past.
No.
And if that is the case, that all changed this year.
So
because it was good.
It is Olaf, pretty much.
Yeah.
He is the star of the show this year. And oh my goodness, we got to the first international booth and my jaw dropped and I'm like, oh, Jeremy. They had Olaf's spirit jersey that said, it's that time of year. And I love that. So I was like, yep, gotta have it. Then they had a nice band that Jeremy wanted.
Mm-hmm.
They had a mug I didn't get this time, but we are coming back.
Like how you
so
say this
probably will get it. We got a ornament. They had, what else did they have?
I love my pass holder hoodie.
Oh, that's what it was.
Love it. Olaf, riding Sven, pockets. It is a light blue, a very winter blue. On the arm is snowflakes and big pass holder.
Yes.
It's a nice light hoodie, but it's not like a t-shirt material. It's between like your standard thick hoodie and a t-shirt. It's like that in between. And on the bottom says, 2021 International Festival of the Holidays.
Oh, and we got the frozen blanket.
We got a frozen blanket for the girls because we apparently collect blankets. So we're standing there, and you were actually looking at something, and I see a guy to my left, and he's with his group, and he's pointing to the Olaf Spirit jersey. And he's like, could I wear that? To his friends. And I just overheard him, and I was like, you can totally wear that.
Yep.
But he didn't hear me. So then we're waiting to check out, and he's standing like right next to me, and he doesn't have it in his hand. And I just looked at him, I was like, you're not getting the Spirit jersey, man? And he's like, no, they didn't have my size.
Yeah.
He's like, but I would totally wear it. I'm like, you're right. You should totally wear it. It would be awesome.
Yep.
I just got my first Spirit jersey.
Yep.
I got that kind of, well, I guess they're all
Christmassy.
some of those light ones, the Star Wars one,
yeah.
and it's Christmas. And I will say, I do feel that sometimes in the past, they have been geared, in my mind, just for whatever reason, sometimes towards females.
Okay.
And I saw that one. I was like, this is perfect. Why would I not get that? And now I look at every Spirit jersey and I'm like,
I'd wear that.
I could totally wear every single Spirit jersey.
Good.
I would wear the Olaf one.
Yeah.
So he's like, no, they didn't have my size. And I'm like, oh, man. And we just start striking up a conversation.
But we also told him, look, if this is the first one, there will be so many more. And it was so neat because we did see so many more.
Yes. Yeah. And so we started talking it up. They're DVC. They're from New York. And I'm so sorry I didn't get his name. If you're listening, email us.
Yeah.
We gave him one of our little promo cards. You can email us, magic@mainstmagic.com. Let us know your name. But we were just talking, and they were on like their last or second to last day of their trip. And yeah, we said, we're like, there's going to be a lot more of these probably around. So hopefully you can find your size. And we kind of just talked a little bit, whatever, checked out. And I'm just going to say it now because I'll forget later. We ran into him and he was wearing the Spirit jersey. Yep. And we walked by and you notice, you go, he got the Spirit jersey. And then we were like, you got the Spirit jersey.
It was so
awesome.
Cool.
It was awesome. We walked a little bit further to another kiosk. Rhonda noticed some ears that are not specific to International Festival of the Holidays.
Right. Because
we'd actually seen them last month and we picked some up for Kat. They're what would you say, like a blue-gray?
Oh, I would say
kind of
gray. So pretty.
They do feel like a wintry vibe, right?
Yep.
And so we're there and meet wonderful cast members, Denise and Vicky. There was another guy there that had a ton of tattoos that Denise just loved.
Yeah.
And every tattoo he had, even if it wasn't Disney related, had a hidden Mickey in it.
It was really cool.
And so they're kind of showing it off, and we start chatting with Denise. Rhonda's got 2 or 3 bags in her hand, and this Vicky from the kiosk comes over with a big giant bag and is like, to Rhonda's like, I saw you standing here with all these bags. Why don't you combine them all into this one with one handle? I'm like, I think that's the Disney difference, right?
Yep.
So yeah, we kind of chat with them and we buy some more stuff there. And so we make our way around World Showcase many times.
Yeah, because we were trying to walk off our lunch.
Yes. But it was time to head back to Coral Reef.
Okay.
And so we go back up, and it wasn't Haley. It wasn't Haley.
No,
it was somebody else, but basically she was like, oh, you're those people, kind of.
Yeah.
Like,
she
you're
knew.
the ones. So they say, just go inside to the hostess desk, and they'll have a server come out to take care of you. And then I still am wrapping my brain around the 2 cast members that we met. And what were their names, Rhonda?
Well, there was quite a few
There
cast members.
There were a few.
But the one that started working with me, her name was Kaylin. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I was like, my daughter's name is Kaylin. And then there was another Kaylin right there with her. And I was like, wait, what? And it was really cool. And then the one Kaylin, because we were telling her how we spelled her name. And then the one Kaylin ended up somehow, we talked about a middle name. And her middle name was Renee as well as mine and Kaylin's.
Yeah.
But mine is spelled R-E-N and Kaylin's is R-E-N-A with a line over the A. I think hers was R-E-N A-E with the line over it. And it was just, I mean, it was so funny. We high-fived. Yeah. It was so cool.
Well, and theirs were, so one
ironic.
one was Kaylyn.
Okay.
One was Caylyn. Ours is Cailyn.
No, it's not. It's Kailyn.
I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. I already said that one. Kailyn. It was just like, we got a photo with them, and I sent it to our Kaylin, and I'm like, just zoom in on the name tags. Yep. And she's like, what? And they were so nice. Sydney and Marissa. Sydney was the one. Well, first we walked in and saw Sydney, and then she actually turned and I said, Kaylin, this is the couple that's going to get the to-go order. And we were like, I'm sorry, did you say her name is Kaylin?
Yeah.
And we're like, our daughter's name is Kaylin. And they're like, her name is Kaylin, so is her name. We're like, what? So Marissa came out then, took our order.
I think Sydney did. And Marissa came out, And Sydney was like, I got all this.
Oh, yeah.
I got
That's
this.
right. She did.
Like, she was like,
So we sat for a little bit to
we
get
just
it.
had a really good time with all
It was
them.
amazing. We were there for 10, 15 minutes just chatting with them like crazy. Do we want to cover food now and talk about the food and what we ordered?
Sure.
Because, all right, let's move ahead to that real quick. All right, so first of all, we had never been to Coral Reef.
No, so I was so
I wanna
sad.
go
We
back
are going to
real
go
bad.
back. We are.
The hallway and the entrance going into
Yep.
it looks absolutely gorgeous.
Yep.
And this has actual views of that living coral reef
Yep.
in the seas. And it's more than 2,000 amazing sea creatures are there while you're eating your meal.
Aw. All right, we're going back.
We're
gonna
totally
make
going to go back. I
reservations.
really want to. So again, we got to pick 2 appetizers, 2 entrees, and 2 desserts.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the appetizers because we would eventually eat the appetizers that evening. And if you want to talk about the eating of these appetizers now, we can do that.
Yeah.
We would eat the entrees the next day
Mm-hmm.
when we move to the hotel.
Yep.
And then the desserts we can cover. Why don't you talk about the 2 appetizers and how we ate these?
So we got the shrimp cocktail, which it says traditional cocktail sauce and a charred lemon for $15. We also got the lobster bisque, which is cream, brandy, and Chervil for $12.
And remember, this is all to go.
This is all to go. So she comes out and she brings me and hands me like a cup that looked like coffee, and I actually thought it was a drink. And she says, "This is your lobster bisque," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And at this point, Jeremy left. I was getting the food and meeting him over at the Candlelight Processional. So, because he already had his ticket, so he's like, "All right, I'm gonna get going, get in line." So I start walking over with this bag, and I'm like, "Well, I'm cold. I'm gonna take a drink of this lobster bisque."
And we're talking the Disney coffee cups that you get, like if you go down to the quick service
Yeah, with
the
a top on
plastic
it.
lid
Yeah,
and a little opening to drink your coffee.
Yeah.
Or your lobster bisque. Whether you want to drink coffee or lobster bisque, either one will actually work in this device.
yes, it will.
Let's just say.
And this lobster bisque was fantastic. I mean, so good, so creamy, so lobstery. Very good. I think the big chunks Jeremy got most of because
because they get stuck.
They got
stuck in the little opening in the coffee
Yep.
cup lid.
And I was drinking quite a bit. Like, he was like, "How full was this?" And I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know. It was so good. I could have drank the entire thing.
How full was it, to be honest?
I really
Okay,
don't
all right.
know.
Like half.
I would say half. Like, I
Okay.
mean, I
Then
think
yeah,
I
think we
saved
both
you.
got-
I
think
think
we
I
both got a
tried to
pretty good
save you.
portion.
But oh my
Thank you.
goodness, it was so good.
Yeah.
And I kept telling myself I might take a small sip and then I'd go, "Oh, Ronnie, you got to save this for Jeremy because it's so good."
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I feel like by the time I was drinking, we were sitting at the Candlelight Processional, and people around me were probably like, "Man, I should ask that guy where he got that coffee," because
somebody
just
did,
downing it.
didn't they? And we said it was lobster
Oh,
bisque.
that's right.
It wasn't coffee.
And when we mention the prices, that's only for an a la carte. If you just went for a meal, again, this was all still $74 per person.
Mm-hmm.
When would we eat the shrimp cocktail?
Well, we were headed back to the bus.
And
And
at that point, it was after 10 o'clock.
Yeah, and I was hungry.
We helped close down the park a
Again.
bit. Yeah.
And then, well, Harmonious was going off as we were waiting on the bus. So
Yeah.
I opened, I was like, I want some shrimps. So I opened up the shrimp cocktail. So the sad part is there was no cocktail sauce in there to be seen anywhere, honestly. It's not like I found it later. But the charred lemon was in there. These shrimp were very nice size, and there was 5 of them?
Yeah.
4 or 5?
You know who should contact the shrimp distributor?
No.
If I don't say it, I'll actually get messages from people saying, "Why didn't you bring up the Boathouse shrimp and grits?"
Really?
Listen, man. Last time I brought it up, people said, as soon as you brought up shrimp and good size, they were like, "Oh, he's gonna say it. He's gonna say it." So I apologize, guys.
Okay.
They were so
They were so good,
honestly.
and shocking because at this point now, I mean, this has been since 6:30, and you're talking about 10 o'clock. We were.
It was
eating
cool
this.
out though. I mean, they were kept, I think, at a good
Oh.
temperature. They were
100%.
still chilled.
100%.
And I honestly only got into cocktail sauce, I feel like, very recently, that I enjoy actual cocktail sauce. And a lot of times we make it at home. I don't care so much for the store-bought stuff. Like, we'll buy ketchup and horseradish and lemon and make it. And I like that a lot. I would have liked to try their cocktail sauce, but I don't think they needed it because that little bit of charred lemon squirted on, they were just so good.
They were.
And so we had two dishes down.
Yes.
We had 4 to take back.
Yep.
Let's talk entrees.
Okay. So they did have these shrimp and grits, which I was like, okay, I have to get anywhere we go. And this is for Rachel. Because
I'm not going to say anything, I
loves-
promise.
What?
About the shrimp.
Shrimp are great size.
Yes, I know.
Oh. So this is sauteed shrimp, cheddar cheese grits, local corn succotash, andouille sausage, Creole spice emulsion for $30. Unfortunately, I did not get to try any of this. I don't even know if I looked at it.
I don't think we even looked at it that night.
Until we got to the hotel. And then we got to the hotel, and I didn't have nothing really to warm it up in except a coffee cup.
Coffee cups are basically like the greatest eating vessel of all time. What was your
my utensil?
Yeah.
A coffee stir. So I warmed it all up, and holy moly. I know that these shrimp and grits are incredible because they were amazing the second day. The shrimp were great. The grits were so good. I liked the corn succotash with it. And I love a grit. So I love that it did not take away from like the corn succotash, the Creole spice emulsion, like the andouille sausage. It just all went so well, and you could taste everything. It wasn't like, oh, well, it's a little heavy on this. It's a little heavy. No, every portion, everything was perfect. I could taste the grits. It was just, this is something to definitely get again.
It was very, very good. And I was shocked at the corn succotash.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you kind of see that and you're like, oh man, you might be going a little overboard. Like, why are you throwing in something that doesn't need to be there? But again, like you said, it works so well together. I think it actually added to the dish instead of taking anything away from it. And yeah, this would be really good to eat fresh in a hot bowl with a fork.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and again, a lot of shrimp, good size shrimp. They're using the same shrimp across with the same as the shrimp cocktail. So I was very, very impressed.
Yes.
I went ahead and opted for the 10-ounce slow roasted grilled ribeye. This comes with loaded mashed potatoes with bacon and a Bercy butter for $34. I ate this at the hotel the next day cold.
Yes, you did.
Because honestly, if you're going to microwave steak, it's just going to turn to rubber, most likely. You know, and this is another one. I'm like, if it tasted this good a day after cold, what does it taste like fresh on a plate?
Yeah.
With utensils, because I'm just ripping it off with my hand. Had nice grill marks. This is honestly what it tasted like. And it's a very different, because this isn't a filet mignon. This isn't, I'm not going to put this up against the other steaks across property because it's a very different cut. It's a very different style. This tasted like going over to a backyard barbecue at your friend's house where they're cooking over charcoal, and they just got, you know what? They're like, hey, ribeyes were on sale at Publix, so I went ahead and just, lightly salt peppered them, maybe a little bit of butter. I threw them on the grill, got some nice sear marks on them. It had that little bit of char flavor and grilled flavor. I thought this was very good. Not a lot of fat. Sometimes you can get these different cuts like a ribeye. There can be lots of fatty portions. Everything was really well trimmed. I thought it was good, and I would like to have it. Now again, I'll probably get something different when we go back, but I would totally get this.
Yeah.
And the loaded mashed potatoes with the bacon, which again, we ate out of a coffee cup with a coffee stir.
They were fantastic.
They were so good.
Creamy. You can taste the bacon in it. Oh.
But it wasn't overpowering.
Nope.
I thought those were excellent.
Yes,
so
I agree.
I was really, really impressed.
Yep.
For meals that we didn't get to eat hot and fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about dessert, which in the end, we can't talk a ton about it. These unfortunately kind of went to waste.
Only
for the most part.
Kaylin ate the key lime though.
Yeah.
So we got a key lime tart, which is a key lime tart with toasted meringue, iridescent shimmer, sparkles, and chocolate ganache for $9. Kaylin said it was really good. She really liked it. I thought she saved it for us, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
Saved a bite or two because she was like, I didn't eat it all. But I completely forgot to eat some because at this point we were at House of Mouse Expo and there was so many desserts.
Yeah, I went to a dessert party.
It was pretty much a dessert party. And I did forget about that. But Kaylin really liked it, so that was awesome.
Yeah.
Now, this is the part where I really am very sad that we missed out. But there was a Bailey's, I don't know how to say that word, and Jack Daniel's mousse. And it is chocolate ganache, candied almonds, and of course, dessert contains alcohol products.
It's got Bailey's.
And it is plant-based, and this is for $9.50. And unfortunately, when we put it in our cooler, we didn't have a actual fridge. We put it in the cooler, and it got a little wet, so it looked a mess. So I didn't even try it because I thought it might be bad. So
yeah, it's probably gonna be watery at that point a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't try it, but
So,
I'm very sad. And this is something I will get back when we go. I will get
for sure
and try it fresh.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, what we can say is I would recommend Coral Reef. Now, I maybe
Absolutely.
wouldn't recommend it just getting it to go and storing it in a cooler in a tent overnight and then eating it out of coffee cups the next day. But at the same time, if that's what your life has come to at this point, it's still really, really good.
It was.
I really, really want to go back. I want to find a time when we're at Epcot here in like 2 weeks. We're really hitting up International Festival of the Holidays. It's not going to work then. When we go in January, we're there for the opening of Festival of the Arts. March, maybe like a February. Maybe we go in February or something, or March or whatever. We go ahead and book this because I would like to do this, and I would like to do a dinner.
Yeah.
And sit and have a drink and enjoy the aquarium and the food. And I can tell you from the interactions we had with those cast members, the service is going to be top notch.
Yep.
I thought it was amazing.
Completely agree.
All right. So at this point, though, we had our giant to-go bag.
Yep.
And I don't know that you mentioned this part earlier, as you are rushing through Epcot to meet me at the Processional, you are drinking lobster bisque.
Yes.
As you are walking.
Yes.
Love that.
Yeah.
You are my hero. And
amazing.
we are going in that night, opening night. We're going to see the second show of this year's Candlelight Processional. Had not been back in 2 years. And we are going to see the voice of Moana.
Yay.
Who I finally learned how to pronounce her name because it's not easy. And it is Auli'i Cravalho.
Mm-hmm. Good job.
And we actually looked up a YouTube video and she explained it as it's the sound you would make if you stub your toe, like ow. And then Lee like Bruce Lee, and then add an E, in case you're wondering.
Yep.
So we went to see her. You actually ended up there before me.
Yes.
And you got a wonderful seat and encountered a cast member named Steve.
Yes. And he was outstanding. It was where I was sitting actually showed for wheelchair. And I was like, am I able to sit here? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. And we just started talking with Steve and he was fantastic. So nice. He had been here.
You said about 18 years, did he say? Or was it 8 years?
8.
Okay.
I thought he said 8.
It had an 8 in it.
Okay. But yeah, and it was just neat talking with him and hearing how he's really enjoyed this over the years and just, nice, sweet guy. Really enjoyed him.
Yeah, we had wonderful seats. So if you're used to the American Gardens Theater, there's that whole first section that's kind of right up front. And then there's a walkway that starts a new section, and we were in the front of that second section, and we were just slightly off center, a little bit to the left. So I actually thought they were really good seats. I like not having somebody directly in front.
Yes.
Usually because we are live streaming, and it's just nice when sometimes you don't have somebody's head like right in front of the live stream. Like normally, if anybody's behind me live streaming, it's my big head. So it was good not to have anything in front of us. There is the high school choirs are not back yet this year.
Right.
Voices of Liberty again are there. And I gotta say, when the choir started walking in,
they still walk in the way they normally do,
with
which
each
is
holding that electric
holding the
candle,
and they walk in through the crowd up onto the stage, and it was really, really cool.
It was incredible,
and they're all dressed in yellow because the center Voices of Liberty is in green. And it's just gorgeous. They're all singing already because there's a song playing. And it was really neat. And what I thought was just real touching, I'm going to try not to cry. At the very end was one girl pushing another girl in a wheelchair. And the one girl in the wheelchair was holding both the candles. And it was just super cool.
It was one of those things. It's already kind of seeing everybody come in, and we're there on the opening night, and this didn't happen last year.
Yeah.
And so it's already an emotional scene. And then when you start to go, this didn't happen last year. This is the second one this year. I imagine the first one this year was even more emotional, as they're all walking in and gathering again, and you're looking around, and the Garden Theater is full. And everybody, you can just tell, is so happy to be there. It was. I mean, it was very, very emotional. Plus, you're about to hear this incredible story and these songs and the music and all of this. And then Ali'i comes out.
I started to say, when she came out, oh my goodness.
She is stunning.
She is. But she came out in this stunning, like, what do you call it? Rhinestone dress.
Yeah.
From head to toe, because then she had rhinestone ears. I'm not sure which ears she had, if they were made.
I feel like those weren't off a shelf at the Emporium.
No, I'm sure they were.
She probably has a really good Etsy dealer.
Or unless they were the new. What were they? $600?
Well, no, because they weren't the same color, but it was very similar to some of the ones we've seen that are like, $600 or something. It would not surprise me. And she comes out and says aloha, and you kind of get that tepid response, aloha, and she's like, I said aloha, and right there you're like, this is freaking Moana.
Yep.
And there are moments, there are moments I close my eyes and I'm just like, this is Moana, and you can just hear it obviously in her voice, but also has her own voice.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so they go through the processional, and I know we touched on it earlier. It is certainly the story of the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem, and there are these songs, but it has, as you said, I think if you are religious, it probably has maybe a deeper meaning. But if you're not, it just feels like the holidays.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything that you're sitting there like, this doesn't really feel like, Christmas, or this doesn't feel like the holidays.
Right.
It feels completely like it. And it's energetic. The songs, the choir, the Voices of Liberty are so energetic. It is such a good show.
Yes, it is.
I highly recommend, if you are there, I would look at dining packages. I know they're expensive, but just think, you know what? If I was going to sit down and do a table service tonight anyway, and we were going to spend, whatever, $130, $40 on the two of us, and for an extra $50 we get guaranteed seating, I think it's well worth it if you can get that reservation. And, most of them booked out day one very quickly, but seeing that some are being released, whether that's due to cancellations or they held some back, keep checking.
Absolutely.
Highly recommend you follow us on the Main Street Magic community in Facebook, because as soon as I got wind of it, we post it in our community. Follow lots of other, especially the magical guide groups. I'll tell you right now, I am online and social media all day, but a lot of the stuff that I see first is from those magical guide groups. They're for every resort, every park. Go check them out.
Yes.
So absolutely incredible. Highly recommend the Candlelight Processional. After that, we were basically going to be on our way out.
Yes.
And we are kind of heading out. And the last time we were there, we were supposed to stop and see our buddy Van, who is a cook at Space 220.
Mm-hmm.
And we just ran out of time.
Yep.
Also,
we saw Tammy. At
yes,
Disney
we saw
Springs,
Tammy,
which is his wife.
Yes, the night before.
And she was like, and then Jody was like, Van's mad at you.
Yeah, it's like, you got to go see Van.
So we were heading, and we were heading where I saw Space 220, and I was like, oh, should we stop and just see if we can see him? Because we're going to get in trouble if we don't. You told her we were going to this, so we're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
So we go over there, and
we also want to see Daniela, who's the wonderful manager that used to be at Coronado Springs.
Yeah. So Daniela is in Miami. I don't know what she's doing. Maybe vacationing it up. But it was just funny because all the cast members were like, well, she's in Miami. Like, oh, she is sporting or doing something up in there. Almost like, oh, she's in New York, or something. But anyways. So we ask if basically we can go see him. And they're pretty much like, no. And then we're like, well, is there any, spot at the bar? Or is there where we could just kind of like, and then maybe or whatever? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, well, just tell him we said hey. And
yeah, because they called up to him. He was busy. I mean, he couldn't come. He couldn't take a break and come down.
I don't know what and I'm not really sure what happened next, to be truthfully honest.
Well, we were there. We were chatting. We were chatting with Emma, Carissa, and Jelly. And we were just kind of talking to him, and we just said like, hey, is either Van or Daniela working or available? And yeah, they call it with, like you said, they immediately said, well, Daniela's, she's off in Miami. She's on vacation. They're like, Van's, they actually were like, we'll call up about Van. Cause they weren't sure who he was. Cause they're front of house and he's a cook. And, Daniela, of course, oversees all of this. So she knows everybody, I'm sure. And so when they called up, they were like, he's not available. I'm like, that's perfectly fine. And then that's when you said,
didn't they say something about them being busy too?
Yeah.
And,
oh, yeah. Well, of course, Space 220. They're always busy. And so, yeah, so you kind of just said, is there any chance there's like a spot at the bar? And they were like, no. And so we're just chatting with them, and we were just talking and all. And at that point, we literally just struck up a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it was Jelly whispered to one of the other two, and then looked and was like, do you want to go up to space?
And we're like, wait, what?
Wait, what? And she was like, we can seat you at the bar.
Yep.
I'm like, would you like to? We're like, yeah, we would like to.
Yes.
And so they get us our boarding pass.
Yeah, that was cool.
And we go, of course, and then we walk. We're like, thank you. This is amazing. So we walk in, and I hope I'm getting his name right because I was trying to look at the name tag. I believe it was Jonan, was kind of like one of the hosts up front as you hand your boarding pass.
It was so cool.
And we're walking in, and they're like, Steins? We're like, yeah, that's us. And so they take us in and to the elevator, and there's a whole group across from us.
Yep.
And we're getting ready to blast off, and Ron is like, have you guys ever been here? And they're like, no. And you're like, like we were both like, yes, there's people that haven't been here.
Yep.
I love to watch their response. The same way the
like,
first time we
look
did
up,
it.
Look down, look both.
So we're going up. We go up the elevator, which we talked about in the past episode when we did lunch there. And that's when we're coming off the elevator and we're going through that greenhouse room where they're like doing, it's like the tunnel with the vegetables. And that's where we saw the guy from New York in the Olaf Spirit jersey. So we go, and we got two spots right at the end of the bar, and we sit down, and we have Matthew as our wonderful bartender, who is just outstanding, so good. I ended up, you got your standard Main Street Magic drink, right?
No, I got the Celestial Cosmopolitan.
Oh, that's right.
It's Tito's handmade vodka. What's that word? Cartier cranberry hibiscus juice, which is my favorite.
Yeah.
And then moon dust.
Yep.
And that is for $15, and that is just fantastic.
Really, really good. And you're right. It's like a play. I think that's why I was thinking it was our standard drink, because it's like a play on our, cranberry vodka and flat water type drink, but with some nice extra twists. I did the Atmos Spritz, which is $15. That's the one with the cotton candy cloud.
Yeah,
so they serve it in a martini glass. the ball of cotton candy,
And then
he
they pour
mixes
it
the drink
over-
and
yep.
pours it over top, and it all melts together, right?
So cool.
So we're talking with Matthew, and we're just kind of, chatting and all. And again, he was so attentive and so wonderful. We do end up, for people that weren't hungry anymore, we had a lot of more food that night because what did we end up ordering off of the Space 220 lounge menu, which you can get the lounge menu or you can get the prefix meal.
Right.
Just today, we're recording this on Wednesday. It goes out on Friday. Just today, they did start to release reservations for the lounge. Couple things so far. And these may change. This is new. And again, a lot of this info is coming from Tammy, the wonderful admin of all the magical guides, Van's wife. Currently, it looks like they're maxing out those reservations at 4 people. And it appears that if you do book the actual Space 220 reservation, you cannot get the prefix. You have to order only off of the lounge menu.
Okay.
Now, recording Wednesday, comes out Friday. Everything could change in the next 48 hours.
Right.
But that's today's info.
Okay.
So just keep an eye on it. Another thing we're going to want to keep an eye on is what walk-ups look like.
Yep.
Because that's been the only way you could currently get it. So how is that going to change? Are they going to allot some for reservations, some for standby? I don't know. What did we order to eat, though?
Well, we looked at the flight bites, and they had some amazing sound good things where, the deviled eggs, calamari, but they had a lobster roll, and they had chicken and waffles. And it says fried chicken, smoked bacon, roasted corn, waffle, spiced coleslaw, and a bourbon maple glaze for $18. So we said, let's get that.
Yes.
We got that. And I think we asked Matthew, and he was like, yeah, this is fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's not, I'm like, can we share it? Is it huge? And it wasn't. It was one waffle.
It's a good size. It's a good shareable size.
It's a very good shareable size.
Well, or a meal size. But again, we didn't want a...
Right.
Yeah. I didn't want this coming out with like a whole plate-filled
Giant
Belgian waffle.
Right.
And in like an entire chicken.
Yeah.
An entire bone-in chicken. What if they came out with a Belgian waffle that was 12 inches and then an entire bone-in chicken?
Died.
I'm like, this is going to be too much.
Yep.
But we do have a bag filled with other food you can put it in.
Yeah. So we ate that, and it was nice and lighter side. I feel like, as weird as that sounds. But there was unfortunate, which I'm very shocked that Jeremy ate as much as he did. But it is not in the description, but they did dice up some pickles. And I say dice, I'm pretty sure Jeremy ate pickles, but
I did not eat pickles. I ate no pickles.
I think it was along the lines.
No pickles were hurt in the making of this meal.
I think it was along the lines of possibly the pickles that were served in Japan. The ones that you ate.
You mean the seasoned cucumbers?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call them. Call it what you want.
The vinegar-based cucumbers.
Okay. The pickles weren't. I remember taking a bite, seeing a bigger chunk, and I was like, oh my God, Jeremy's eating pickles. Oh my God.
It did not consume a pickle. I stand by this.
Okay. Anyways, I remember tasting one specifically and thinking, okay, this isn't like a pickle that I would eat that is pickly, like that Jeremy's like disgusted by. So I'm going to go ahead and stand by my theory of it is spiced cucumbers that are cut up.
I'll go with that. It was interwoven within the slaw, and then I saw them, but I hadn't tasted them, which is why I don't believe. And I don't think they were very juicy. So the juice from the pickles, like you said, didn't get a chance to infiltrate the slaw.
I'm telling you, I ate one, and it didn't. I wasn't like.
I still don't think I actually ate one, but
I'm sure you did.
When you say this is a light chicken and waffles, you're right.
Yep.
I think the first of all, the chicken is perfectly fried, but lightly. This isn't that big, thick, Trails In hoop-de-doo review fried chicken.
Yes.
This isn't a Art Smith's Homecoming fried chicken. This is that light breading where the breading
Right.
is salty
Right.
and it's delicious, but the chicken really shines and it's cooked perfectly.
Yep.
And I think the cornbread waffle lends to
That was so
a
good.
lighter waffle.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this nice slaw that is fresh with a little bit of spice that I think hits perfectly.
I agree.
I would be interested. I'll have to ask Van. He does not work on this dish, which I found this very interesting too. If you could get it without the diced, slightly vinegared and spiced cucumbers in it.
Okay.
That's how I'd order it. Be like, excuse me, could I get this without the diced, spicy, vinegar-based cucumbers?
Mhm.
You mean the pickles? No. That's not what I said. I would not like the cucumbers
Okay.
that are in between. The cucumbers, okay, this was like a cucumber. You know how there's that weird, like in Beetlejuice, there's that afterlife where you're not still alive and on Earth, but you haven't moved on to your full
Oh my
afterlife.
goodness.
Going You're in that middle
Really?
ground.
That's where you're going with this?
That's what these were.
Okay.
They weren't a cucumber. They weren't a pickle. They were somewhere in between.
Okay.
I've got to justify this, Rhonda. I have to in my brain. So anyway, I thought this was delicious. I would get it again. They do have some of the things on that lounge menu, the flight bites. We had the starry calamari for lunch before, delicious. The blue moon cauliflower is delicious.
I want the deviled eggs, man.
I would like to do the New England lobster roll. It is with a lemon mayo.
Mm-hmm.
You have to agree that I have come some ways with eating items that obviously have a mayo base.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that at Steakhouse 71 when we get to that
yeah.
point. So I'm just saying, I'm coming around. Never, though, for the devil's cucumber. Never coming around to that. That's why it's called the devil's cucumber.
No, it's not.
Because it was in that mid world. It was in Beetlejuice,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then where do you think it ended up? Not up here, not in heaven. It went down low. That's where the name comes from.
Okay.
So during this time, we would also end up striking up wonderful conversations with other cast members. I mean, they're getting close to close, so people are starting to filter out. Juan, and we got to learn about his wonderful fiance, Kiana.
Oh, my goodness. These two people, too, are the most beautiful people I think I've ever seen.
Like I'm waiting for like a People magazine or GQ to come out with their engagement photos on it.
They were,
Because he showed them to us, and it was like on the beach in the water and stuff. We were just like, I mean, literally two of the most beautiful human beings I've ever seen.
He's very handsome.
Yes.
She is very gorgeous. And they are just going to make some beautiful babies.
Okay, Rhonda. All right, then
What?
we got to meet
the
also.
truth.
Well, it's
They're
very
going to
true.
have a
I'm sure.
beautiful family.
Oh, totally.
They're engaged.
And I'm
They're
so
going to get
excited for
married.
them.
We're going to the wedding.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Well, and it was one of those too. You know, it was so neat to talk to him, and
it was so neat to talk to all of them because
yeah,
they are like
they're-
a family, just like I
Yes.
am at work with my
yes.
with my salon family. And I mean, we always have each other's back, and Jen has been there numerous of times as like a sister. We actually look like sisters.
Mhm.
So I can totally relate when Juan and then Christian and Claire, and we were all like, Claire came up and was like, show the pictures. And I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah, it really was. And then Christian had just gotten engaged very recently to Christopher,
Mm-hmm.
and showed us his photos of their getting engaged and his ring and all. And and you're right. And they were all so excited. It wasn't like Christian was sitting there telling us, oh yeah, you know, I just got engaged. And then Matthew was like, you did? Oh, congratulations. You know what I mean?
Right.
They all knew.
Yep.
You could tell this was such a tight-knit
Yep.
family. And I texted Daniela last night, because I just forgot to earlier, and was just like, I just got to say, like, I'm sorry we missed you. But again, what you're creating, it had that, of course, Daniela came from Coronado.
Athena,
It had that
feel.
vibe,
Yep.
that same one that we saw at Three Bridges, and what, you know, Athena and Jess created there. And this family, oh, I just love to see it.
Yeah, it
And
was
then
so cool.
in the midst of all of this, we get a tap on the shoulder,
Then
turn
there's
around,
Van.
and there's Van.
Yay! We don't get in trouble now.
Oh, who Rhonda did not get to meet last time.
Mm-hmm.
We had done that over the 50th. We went down to the Magical Guides Coronado meetup. Kaylin and I went down because it was a little bit
I was
later.
sleeping.
You were asleep. Lacey didn't come, and I got to meet Van, who I had heard so much about. And first of all, Tammy's one of the most wonderful people, and then Van is just a blast. He's such a good dude.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to hear because we were like, the chicken and waffles were great. Did you make that? And he's like, no, I make like these items. Like So the way that they kind of, I think, section off a kitchen is like, all right, you're in charge
That's
of
cool.
these, which I think is, I mean, it's the same thing, I guess, as you would go to like a, you always have these, especially like the signature sit down fancy restaurants. You have a sous chef, you have your main chef, you have a pastry chef, you have
Right.
people that handle different items.
Right.
I don't know why I just never thought of it, when you're sitting at a lounge, like somebody's in charge of these certain things.
Yeah.
But that's where you're able to, I think, put out the highest quality,
Right.
which is so cool.
Yep.
This seriously was just, I know this seemed like one of those episodes we were all over the place, but if I've learned anything, I think from some recent episodes and our last one with Professor Daniel Miller, which was a blast.
Yeah.
The conversations of doing this, like you and I just reliving this the same way that we're trying to tell this on the podcast, the way that the next morning your parents were like, so how was your night?
Right. And and what's really cool about that too is that we had this whole plan and plans go awry. And I love that we can talk about this. Like there's lately, and I think I've done pretty good at pulling Jeremy back down, but babe, you get so like, well, this isn't right. We're supposed to do this. We're doing. And
if you're
I'm
talking
like,
about Dunkin' Donuts this morning, I already apologize.
no, but I mean, like when we've been at Disney, and I'm like, but we can talk about this.
Yeah.
We can go, okay, hey, this didn't work out, but this is what happened.
Well, that's what we were walking away when we first talked to Haley. Did I do it right?
Yes.
I got it.
Good job.
When we were first talking to her, and then we walked away, I think I looked at you and I was like, I'm so glad this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what, it's going to, even though we asked her and she's like, no, nobody has ever asked this question before, it's going to occur. Yeah. Something's going to happen. And I even said to you, I was like, we were walking up and I was like, we should have canceled Steakhouse 71 today. We knew we had this at 4, and I'm so glad we didn't, because everything, worked out swimmingly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
You guys get it.
Okay.
So I'm not kidding when I say, and I know this was the best guy ever, or best day ever, the best meal ever, the best whatever ever type guy. But this literally, I'll say this was one of my favorite days, which again started with your parents, and we had a wonderful, wonderful lunch. And I love sitting down with them because they're so inquisitive about, what do you think of this? What are you guys doing? It's always wonderful, like to go to Steakhouse 71. And when we do that review, we're able to do appetizers, several entrees, a dessert. Like we feel like we can cover a lot more, which I think is very, very important to us. I just, from beginning to end, this day was just so incredible. And it's one of those that is definitely going up to the top of my list.
Yep.
And we had so much fun.
Yep.
And I know we missed folks, both cast members and just guests that we ran into.
Mm-hmm.
We have our Pura Vida bracelets, which are still on sale at mainstreetshirts.com for $7 if you would like. Very cool Main Street Magic bracelets.
If you find us in the parks.
Oh, well, we always have them in our bag.
Yep. Find us in the parks.
We handed them out to every last one of those Space 220 members.
We did.
And I just, one of my favorite, and then we'll close out, moments was, I was taking out our little promo cards and just saying, hey, here's what we do and all. And I was like, y'all like bracelets? And they're like, sure. And I started handing them out. And next thing I know, I turn over and Christian is putting his on.
Yep.
And I'm like, cool. That is the coolest thing ever. Like, because, they could easily just be like, oh, yeah, it's great. Put it in their pocket and later be like, garbage. And they're like literally putting them on in front of us. Yeah. So it was so much fun. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We are going to do, first of all, we still have coming out of this, we are going to do a full Thanksgiving at Fort Wilderness episode.
Yay.
We wanted to get the Candlelight Processional one done first, knowing that some people are going or thinking of going. We are going to talk about the House of Mouse Expo, which Scott and Michelle from the Main Street Mouse absolutely knocked out of the park. Mm-hmm. And we had the best day ever with the girls who got along.
Yeah,
which made it one of the best days ever. We are going to do the Steakhouse 71. If you did not listen to Tuesday's episode with Daniel Miller from Drinking at Disney, it is a blast. It's a fun one. And then we'll be back at Universal and Disney soon to go ahead and experience much more of the holidays at both. And so we have a lot of great stuff coming up throughout the end of the year, a couple fun ones, a couple more reviews, things like that. So thank you everyone as always for listening.
Yes, thank you. you.
Main Street Magic Community on Facebook, Main ST Magic. You can follow us on all other social platforms. And if you're out there, subscribe. New episodes every Tuesday and Friday. And we would be so appreciative if you leave us a rating and review.
Because it helps our show grow.
That's all we've got. We'll see you real soon.
Jeremy and Rhonda are more than a little fond of Disney World, so they made this podcast to share it all with you. Reports and resorts, top 10 lists of all sorts. Main Street Magic's bringing it home for you.